The laws of Purim. Purim has 4 laws, but the period of Purim has 6 laws. And we will start them in chronological order, in the order of the events that come about first. The first mitzvah is Machatzit shekel, which is a custom, but it is a custom that is accepted amongst all Israel and should be kept except for circumstances which don't allow a person to do it. Machatzit shekel is the half shekel. Shekel is a weight. It's like saying a kilo, a gram. Machatzit shekel was the amount that the Jewish people gave to the temple. No one was allowed to add, no one was allowed to subtract. Everyone gave the same amount, whether they were wealthy or they were poor. Machatzit shekel, half a shekel to the temple in order to be part of the community's sacrifices and all the other aspects of the temple, so that the temple will atone for everyone because it is something that was given to by everyone. Machatzit shekel, there are 2 customs how to fulfill it, the Ashkenazi custom and the Sephardic custom. The Ashkenazim do the custom just like in the temple. They give 3 halves of the currency of the country in which they live. The Sephardim, we have the custom of just like in the times of the temple, but we give the worth of the half shekel, 3 half shekels, which was the amount that was given. Today, it comes out according to what silver is worth today, because of a half shekel of silver, $6 per person. Some people like giving chai, but just because it's chai, which means life, and machatzit has the word chai in it. If you think about the word machatzit, if you can see the letters, the tzaddik, which represents tzedakah, is in the middle. Chai are the 2 letters on the right and the left, which means life. Life is close to charity. And met, death, is the 2 letters which are distant from the tzaddik, which means one who gives charity has life come close to him, and death is distance from the individual. Machatzit shekel, according to the Sephardic custom, is a little less than $6. It depends on the day, the worth of silver. That is given from the beginning of the month of Adar until, ideally, Ta'anit Esther, but even until Purim, it is okay to give Machatzit shekel. $6 per person, makes no difference, adult, child, the custom is to give to everyone, even for embryos. Again, this is a custom. The second mitzvah is the mitzvah which happens this coming Shabbat, which is the mitzvah, the biblical commandment of reading or hearing the reading of the portion that deals with destruction of the nation of Amalek. The nation of Amalek was the nation that, without provocation, came to fight against us, to hurt us, to cause us to cease to exist because we represented godly morals, and they did not want to have those godly morals in the world. It bothered the notion that they are free to do whatever they wanted. So they wanted to destroy us, they wanted to kill us. Amalek is the grandson of Esav, and we are the grandson of Yaakov. This hatred has been since the beginning of our nation until today. There are elements of anti-Semites which smell or which are distinguishable to be those of Amalek. Who they are today, we don't know. So therefore, this physical commandment does not apply so much as it did in those days. Nevertheless, the concept of doing away with people who devote their lives to evil and to the destruction of morality does, and we are commanded to read and learn about the mitzvah of remembering what Amalek did to us. And that happens the Shabbat before Purim, because just like on Purim, we have the action that destroyed Amalek. Mordechai killed Haman, and Haman is an Agagite. Agagites are the great-grandchildren of the king of Amalek, Agag. That's this Shabbat. Men and women usually come. Some say women are not obligated. Some say women are obligated. The general custom is to promote the coming of ladies as well to hear the reading of the Torah this Shabbat. Those are the mitzvot that come before Purim. The mitzvot of Purim are 4. Again, we're going to do it in the order that they come about. The first mitzvah is listening to the Megillah the night of Purim. One is obligated in hearing every word of the story of the Megillah, and therefore should have a Megillah with them that they could follow, find a good seat, make sure that they go to a place where they can hear the Megillah properly from someone who knows how to read it well. One cannot hear the Megillah from the radio, from the internet, or even most authorities say from the microphone. One should not hear the Megillah. The Megillah should be heard from someone who is reading it clearly, loudly, and in a pronunciation that you are comfortable with understanding what is being said. If you do not understand Hebrew, you can still fulfill your obligation by hearing the Megillah. Just make sure that you hear every word and you listen along. That is the reading of the Megillah at night. Most communities have parties at night. Most communities have events at night. There is no mitzvah of drinking at night. That does not mean that it's prohibited to drink, but it's just not an obligation. During the day of Purim, we have the 3 mitzvot, the 3 commandments. Commandment number 1 is, again, to hear the Megillah. To hear the Megillah in the day. It is not about listening to the Megillah twice. It's not about the number. It's the notion of hearing it at night, which represents hardships and exile, and the notion of hearing it during the day, which is clarity, light, and during a time of redemption. Still, the Megillah is supposed to be read. So we hear the Megillah again during the day. Most synagogues will have the reading of the Megillah more than once. We have it twice at night, 3 times during the day, to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to fulfill this very, very great and powerful mitzvah. That's hearing the Megillah during the day. The other 3 mitzvot are, during the day, giving baskets or items of food to one other individual. There has to be a minimum of 2 food items, but ideally the mitzvah should be done according to the status or according to the honor of the giver and the receiver. So one should give food items that would complement the individual to whom you are giving based on their status and your status. But the minimum is 2 food items that are ready to eat. 1 to 1, not family to family, individual to individual. Men should not give to women, women should not give to men, men give to men, and women give to women. The next mitzvah is the mitzvah of gifts to the poor, matanot la'evyonim. And gifts to the poor is any amount according to the basic level of the law is acceptable, but the proper way of fulfilling this mitzvah is to give the worth of 4 meals, whatever you would spend on yourself, one should spend on the poor, the worth of 4 meals. Generally, it comes to about $20 to $40 to $60 per person. People spend more, then they should spend more on the poor. The rule of thumb is spend more on the poor than spending on the food packages that we give to our friends and on the meal that we eat on Purim. That's the mitzvah of mishloach manot, to one individual, minimum of 2 items that are edible. That's mishloach manot. Matanot la'evyonim, gifts to the poor, should be the worth of 4 meals. So again, 2 mitzvot, we kind of put the 2 together, we mix them up. Let's clarify. Matanot la'evyonim, gifts to the poor, the worth of 4 meals to 2 poor people. It has to be delivered on Purim. You may fulfill this mitzvah by giving it to an organization before Purim, or to giving it to one of your local synagogues before Purim or on Purim night. And usually the rabbi or the one in charge of distributing the funds will distribute them on Purim day on your behalf. And mishloach manot, gift items to another individual on the day of Purim as well. Neither of these mitzvot can be fulfilled on the night of Purim. And the last mitzvah is the meal. There's an obligation to have a festive meal because on Purim they wanted to destroy our bodies and Hashem saved our bodies. So there's a mitzvah on Purim to have a meal. Whenever we say in Jewish law to have a meal, it has to consist of bread. And in the case of Purim, if one appreciates and likes meat, then it is proper to have meat. Meat means not poultry. Meat is either beef or lamb, anything of the sort. It is also possible, of course, it's perfectly fine to have chicken if one likes it, But in order to make sure that it's an important, nice meal, ideally it's always meat. And wine or other alcohol. Some say that the drinking should specifically be with wine because the miracle in the story of Purim happened with wine. Esther invited Achashverosh and Haman to a feast of drinking of wine, and Achashverosh's Seudah, the meal of Achashverosh, was with a lot of wine. So some say it is ideal to have wine, but in that case we are lenient with any type of alcohol, especially if it coincides with the number of years that we were in the desert, 40 years, so 40% alcohol is acceptable. That mitzvah, some say one truly has to drink until they do not recognize the difference between Haman and Mordechai, and some authorities say that that's not proper. The way to fulfill the mitzvah is to drink a little more than you are used to. Some say it's proper to go to sleep. At that point you cannot recognize between Haman and Mordechai, and some say just a little drinking is enough. Everyone agrees that this obligation is not one that one has to be too particular about, and the only way to fulfill this is if one does not forget to fulfill any other mitzvot like Birkat Hamazon, like being respectful to one another, like being respectful of oneself. If one thinks that, God forbid, they are going to behave in a fashion which is not respectful, then one should refrain from drinking. May Hashem merit us to fulfill all the mitzvot with happiness, with enthusiasm, and may we merit to see the great light that comes from this day and shine upon us until the coming of Mashiach. Amen. Ken Yeh Ratzon.